Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. I don't know if this translates to the European community, but welcome to the home stretch of ICBC. Thanks for being here, Brian Passman. I've been an executive recruiter my whole life. Why am I qualified to be up here with these folks? I've done a lot of technical recruitment in the life sciences industry and 6 years in cannabis. We specialize in senior leadership placement. A lot of them are highly technical roles. These are friends of mine. Very impressive people who came over here from North America, who have been building a very challenging niche in the legal cannabis industry. And I think this is going to be a fun conversation. So I'm going to let Jill introduce herself.
Hi there. It's loud. All right. I am Jill Ellsworth. I am the founder and CEO of Willow Industries. I originally come from the food and beverage industry in the US. I'm also a registered dietitian. I hold a master's in food science and nutrition. And at Willow, we developed a kill step for cannabis utilizing ozone gas. We operate currently in about 26 states in the US and then also the Australian market. And then in addition to our technology, we also have a consulting arm. And so that consulting arm is filled with microbiologists that go into cultivations to provide guidance, suggestions, SOPs for mitigating microbial contamination, and then implementing best practices similar to GMP standards in the US. Excited to be here.
Hi, I'm George Terry. I'm the Executive Vice President of RadSource. My wardrobe today is compliments of Delta Airlines when you trust them to move your baggage, which is my suit's somewhere in Sweden right now. So, and this is the only thing that the German stores had that fit. All right. So, I come from a medical background and a telecom background. I came into RadSource about 5 years ago, previously with pharma, and before that with 8 years of orthopedics with Stryker Orthopedics. So lots of background in the medical side. We're primarily a medical device company. We're FDA cleared for blood, and we got into cannabis about 5 years ago. So you guys have seen me plenty of times. We've got units throughout the world, and happy to be here again with our friends.
Good afternoon. My name is Arthur de Cordova. I'm co-founder and CEO of Zeal. Zeal in German means target, and that is what we do as a company. We target microbial pathogens. Our company's roots are in the food safety business, and we have installations throughout the world in pasteurization and microbial remediation, Australia, Chile, Central America, North America, and of course here in Europe.
All right, so let's talk about how you've grown your respective businesses in this very rapidly evolving regulatory landscape in this very dynamic industry. How have you grown your businesses throughout all of that? And what opportunities excite you outside of North America, beyond wherever you're targeting in the rest of the world? Let's start with you, Jill.
Okay. So I started Willow in 2015, so early days, United States Cannabis. We're based out of Denver, Colorado, and that was really the first moment that the state started contemplating testing for total yeast and mold and other types of pathogens. So I know Arthur and I can debate who came to market first. I think we both kind of started in the fall of 2015. But you know, what was interesting is that there was no pathway, there was no groundwork for what a kill step, for what decontamination looked like at that time. And it's been interesting to see the evolution, but back in 2015, I mean, I had to go to the state of Colorado and say, listen, this is necessary for cultivators to operate in, you know, a regulated market, but then also that we're protecting consumer safety. I mean, they hadn't even contemplated that if a cultivator was presented with contamination based on the test results they had required, there's no solution. And so we really had to give them suggestions. We had to lay the groundwork for them and let them know, here's what you need to do, and here's why you need to consider, food safety standards coming into cannabis. So we really helped the state of Colorado understand what that looked like, and we also helped them move towards coining this phrase, decontamination. As other states started to legalize, it's just been this kind of like siloed mess of regulations. No state has the same testing requirements. So we've kind of had to rinse and repeat the same process with all the other states, letting the regulators understand that there needs to be a pathway towards treating product to ensuring that the product does not have microbial contamination. Looking at the international market, these standards are set. And so I feel like it's a much better pathway for cultivators to have best practices. But the US it's been a huge challenge.
Yeah, from my perspective, since we're a global company as well, not only in blood, but we've even got a unit here in Berlin that does the vaccine. They're working on the vaccine for Ebola. But the regulations are different for cannabis as it applies to your market in the European Union. Not only do you have the federal European regulations to deal with, but you also have regional ones. So even within Germany, you have 28 different regions, or I believe that some of them are broken down even further. So just understanding the regulations within your region and partnering with the right people in order to make sure that you're actually solving a problem. Remember, you guys are out there, you're thinking, oh, I want to make money, right? But be in there to solve a problem, because that's when the regulators are going to really work with you, and you're going to be able to partner with them better by solving a problem that they have, generally around public safety, but also remember, they're funded by the people as well. So you want to serve the people well.
I'm going to give a shout out to GMP. Incorporating GMP into a cannabis regulatory framework leads to more predictable outcomes. It's generally, a safer approach, more predictable, repeatable results. And, in a previous life, I was a country manager for AstraZeneca. So if you come from big pharma, GMP is ingrained into your DNA. And to Jill's point and George's point, the U.S. market has been chaotic, to put it short. So I would not look to the United States as your model for doing it here. And I think that the U.S. market can best be summed up with an anecdote from Winston Churchill, who famously said, "I trust the Americans to do the right thing after trying everything else." So don't look to the United States for best practices. We've got our scars on our back. We've made our mistakes.
Yeah, well, that's well said, unfortunately. So let's share some thoughts on how to partner with regulatory bodies on moving the ball forward, as well as with partners, growers, who might need some assistance in meeting some of their regulatory objectives. Why don't we start with you, George?
Thank you, Brian. I'd like to say you're doing a lovely job. I hope you're nice and relaxed.
$20 in the mail.
Okay. So partnering with the right people is a matter of, like I said, trying to solve a problem. So especially in this environment, you got to understand your regulatory your requirements in each country, plus EU rules, plus anything that's overwhelming within your region. So you have to find the right lawyers, you have to find the right consultants, you have to partner with the right people, and even like I pointed out before, you figure out what problems you're trying to solve. You guys are saying, okay, I've got a product here, I've got shatter, I've got flour, I've got this. What's the problem that you're trying to solve? Well, we want to make sure that we're giving clean medical cannabis to people. GMP is a big part of that, and GMP's got a lot of parts that, the IQ, OQ, and then you have the PQ. The PQ requirements are very stringent in some parts, but it's got to be a part of your process, that you're solving a problem and that you're understanding what the local regulations are with your partners.
Anyone wants to add to that?
I'll jump in. Yesterday, many of the panelists up here, I kept on hearing the word collaboration with your regulators. And there's a lot of maybe anger towards the regulators. You think they're trying to make your life difficult. They're trying to figure it out too, just like we are. And they're trying to do the best they can. And, we have found that, working with the regulators is collaboratively really yields great results. Tangling with your regulators is a recipe for disaster. It's like being a little warm and jumping in the shark tank to cool off. It's not going to turn out well for you. So I would advocate, make them your friends, work with them, and they'll serve you well.
I mean, to Arthur's point, when I was in one of the sessions yesterday, he said, everyone kept saying, become friends with your regulators, understand what they want, do not be afraid of them, really have a relationship with them. And I can't stress that more. Because we've seen that happen, here in the States, and especially in the States, I think a lot of cultivators are terrified of the regulators. They don't know how to embrace it. I think there's a lot of bitterness about the testing regulations that have come down, the requirements that they're subjected to. And so they've really shunned the regulations. But regulators are writing this playbook as we move forward every day. I mean, there's been nothing done in this regard before. So I've always embraced the regulation side. I think that's helped our company, but also really helped our partners. So yes, embrace that for sure.
So usually when lawyers are brought in the conversation, it gets scary. It feels like it's about to get contentious. So to the point of playing nice with regulators, because they're people too, and they're trying to do the right thing. So don't insult them and try to steamroll them, but what are your thoughts on retaining legal counsel? And if you've done that, do you have advice on doing so and choosing counsel that can just counsel you to navigate and steer clear of being steered to some choppy waters in any way? Because, I think in litigation, only the lawyers win, but you need some legal counsel to navigate some of these things. George, that's on you.
That's on me? Oh, well, I've got an excellent lawyer. I mean, ich wollte Deutschland versehen, but, I can't read, 400 pages in German of regulation for what's the German pharmacopoeia, so you got to have somebody who knows what they're doing in the country that you're trying to operate, and even larger broadly across the EU. So, putting together the right German team. As far as the lawyers in the U.S., and I agree with what Arthur said as well, don't challenge these people. I sued a state in the U.S. and they came after me with, we won, but they came after me with a vengeance. So, work with these people the best you can. Remember, you're solving a problem for them.
We brought in a government affairs team to help us navigate the regulatory landscape, but also to, get to understand what the regulators want, what do they need, what are the pathways they need to understand to help move this industry forward. And it's been incredibly successful for us, but also that is certainly what we refer to our partners as well, is bring in the government affairs, bring in the lawyers to help guide you in this choppy waters, because it doesn't get easier, that's for sure.
Arthur, you want to add?
No.
Okay. No comment?
No comment.
Okay. This is being recorded, so that might be a good idea. So years building this niche. Really, kudos. Thanks for the hard work, all of you. Jousting with legislators, regulators, politicians, all the sorts. You must have stories for days. Any anecdotes you're willing to share here publicly? Arthur, since you passed on the last.
Yeah, I'll pass, okay. We've seen a lot. And one story that comes to mind is in Colorado. And go back to 2015, Colorado was the first U.S. state to go adult use. They had no regulatory framework. They had no way to enforce it. So the Marijuana Enforcement Department, MED, tapped the Drug Enforcement Agency of the state of Colorado. They said, we're going to bring you in to regulate this. And the DA officers raised their eyebrows, aghast. And they said, no way. We've been trying to put these people in jail for decades, and now you want us to empower them, to make them successful? Forget it. Go find somebody else to do this. Out of that came, inadvertently, the creation of the cannabis testing lab industry, which is a big dollar, industry right now. And when Nevada was looking to start their adult rec market, they looked at best practices in Colorado. So they copied them. And then Michigan copied Colorado and Nevada. And 23 states later, all these states have the same regulatory framework, really begun just by one DEA agent saying, I'm not going to do it. So it was not very thought through, but that's where we are today.
Anyone want to try to top that?
I don't know, that's kind of hard. I mean, from my perspective and from my company's perspective, I mean, we were in the cultivations all the time. So, the horrible things that you think you've seen, you kind of top that at the next cultivation you go to, especially early days. I mean, we see dogs running around grows and they wonder why they're failing for microbials. Or, we saw a company trying to make bubble hash in a washer machine. So, I mean, just one customer we had, they had chickens and ducks running around their farm, and I mean, their flour was covered in E. coli and salmonella. I mean, it's like people do not understand that this is a product that you're going to consume. And do you see in the Frito-Lay facility, dogs running around and people not wearing PPE or wearing the gloves and then eating a bag of Cheetos and then going back and continuing to trim the flour? I mean, this is an absurdity that we see in the US. And so it's really encouraging that I feel like the European market has really avoided that because they put very strict guidelines in place from the very beginning. And, I'll be damned if I saw a dog probably running around a grow in Europe. So, I mean, the stories are endless. But it's been encouraging to see the progression and that new cultivations opening up really care. They care about consumer safety. They care about quality product. And so, I'm excited to see how the industry keeps evolving.
And I've got a little different perspective. After years and years of doing this, you go to people and you say, hey, we'd like to talk to you about decontamination. Oh, don't worry, we grow clean. We're fine. We don't need any of that. And then, 3 months later, hey, remember when you were here? We think we need one of those units. So out there's a false hope that there's going to be clean grow, and that's what you want. You want to have clean cannabis, that's grown clean. There's a lot of products out there that help that during the grow, but ultimately, contaminants are everywhere. They're floating around this room, and you're going to need one of us in order to make it safe for people. And it's not that you failed. It's just a part of the way that the world is. There's contaminants everywhere. They're in the air. They're in the soil. They're in the dogs that are running around. And just, when you're going through a grow, you want to make sure that it's all for public safety. So, whatever decontamination method you choose, don't think that you're going to be perfectly perfect, because we pull stuff off the shelf all the time. We do secret shopping ourselves, and things that have cleared months ago, they're not clear anymore. So, always have a backup plan, especially the investors, that, hey, if I'm not going to get this flour for $1, I'm going to get 20 cents on the dollar if I send it to extract. So have a plan.
I want to just add to that. Jill has really gotten out front and changing the conversation in the United States. As George just referenced, there's been a stigma that, and every cultivator thinks its plants are its own children. My children are perfect. Well, they're not perfect. 20% plus minus are going to fail, microbial. So the conversation is shifting from, I don't have a problem, I do have a problem, then the CFO comes in and says, I'm no longer going to allow you to sell that to extract at a deep discount, within, throw it over the wall. But they still don't want to do a kill step up front. And Jill really got out in front and advocating this, that, hey, we have to change the conversation. A kill step is the right thing to do. Doesn't mean that your product is bad. It's in the consumer's interests to do this. And it's also in the financial interests of the company to create higher yield product.
So, as devil's advocate, because I'm sure you've heard this enough times to be prepared, is just you're talking to someone who says, well, I've been consuming for years and decades. I've consumed all of these things you're cleaning. I'm still here. I'm okay. I'm alive. Why not just keep going that way?
Well,
Yeah.
well, I mean, let's kick it off with, well, do you have cancer? Or are you immunocompromised? Or these are medical patients as well. It's not just the recreational patient. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people have deep ties to this, but you can't have a medical patient that gets something that's got aspergillus in it and expect that person to be well. There's documented cases all throughout, especially the U.S., on people that get sick from contaminated cannabis. Sorry, Jill.
Oh, I mean, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, we're selling to a totally different consumer. It's not just you and your bros smoking weed in the back of a car. It is a mom that's trying cannabis for the first time, or it's immunocompromised, or, some medical patient that really needs high quality cannabis. So it is unacceptable if a cultivation thinks that they don't need a processes to ensure that this product is as clean and high quality as it could be. Like that conversation, I can't even with it anymore when people say that to me. I was like, oh my God, I've been smoking weed forever and I'm fine. But are you? Because there could be like indications that you aren't fine or you have stomach issues. And that might be, there's a whole suite of things that could be happening if you're smoking or consuming contaminated cannabis that you don't even put those two together. So, no, we need to step up the quality. But I speak to the States, not really the European market.
So, LinkedIn is very cannabis friendly, thankfully. So maybe everyone here has seen it, but I wonder how surprising it might be to people here to hear that there are legal grows with animals running around still. That's a thing. You're California sun-grown. It's just out in the open. It's all natural. Dogs are our friends. Who cares? That's real things. It's wild. I think we have time for audience questions. Great. Yes, sir.
I'm here. Okay, thank you. My name is Rocky Petrullo. We have a company in Columbia growing. However, I got a question and a comment for Jill. Jill, you mentioned ozone and that you are decontaminating the flower, correct?
Correct.
So when you apply the ozone, I was in the biohazardous industry for a long time, and I've been a regulator for a decade, and then I was a stakeholder and built a medical waste treatment plant for 10 years. So I have both sides of it. But we used autoclaves to steam sterilize biohazardous waste, but then it goes to the trash. It goes to the landfill. When you ozone the flower, is it reusable or is it destroyed?
So after we treat it with ozone, can it go to the shelf as flour? Is that what you mean? Does it go to the shelf as flour? Yes. That is definitely the intention. I mean, there are certain levels of contamination that ozone does not get clean because ozone is a surface decontamination. But our system is built around, specific treatment times in relation to ozone concentration. It's fully contained. So yes, the flour is fit for use.
Other question?
Yes, hi, thanks. I got a question regarding, because you were talking about a lot of regional, national, and even local different regulations. Now, I'm from the pharmaceutical industry, I've got a pharmaceutical background, and here there are a lot of efforts for harmonization, even globally. So now when it comes to cannabis, first thing we got now at the moment is the monograph in the European Pharmacopoeia, which is going to be introduced quite soon, I guess. Do you see any more efforts or developments into a more harmonized and internationally harmonized regulatory landscape, even maybe a kind of ICH for cannabis? Or will the ICH even take over cannabis, or will it be as it is for long to come?
I think you got a lot of time because I think like Italy, Spain, Portugal, Germany, I think a lot of people are probably looking to see what Germany's doing, and then they might copy parts of that, across the pharmacopoeia and the AMRAD V and stuff like that. But the requirements in Germany are pretty stringent. And remember, these other countries are going to look for what's best for the consumer, right? So they might take parts of what's good for the consumer from Germany, but the second part of that is, then when you get to the regional and the local, it's going to be tax money. How much are they going to make tax? Because believe it or not, the government likes to make money off this as well. So, did that answer the question? Yes.
Hi, hello. Talking about decontamination, can you comment about, because some of the countries, at least it's what I have heard, has some issues regarding radiation. If it's not a regulation issue, it could be a consumer issue, or even customers that say they will not accept product that was going to irradiation because if it's bad quality. So can you comment a little bit on that? What you think about irradiation has linked with not as good product?
So the irradiation question, there's a span all the way from RF up to gamma. So radiation is the lights that you're seeing now. It's UV. High power gamma and E-beam are what they're used regularly in the EU and also in Canada. So those, there's studies that are out on that. It's safe. They use it for medical devices. When I was at Stryker, all the knee implants, all the stents, everything gets irradiated, right? So there's a trail of people out there that think that radiation is bad, but it's not. It's proven safe. It's generally regarded as safe. All prescription drugs in the U.S. are irradiated, and they don't have to be labeled either because they're generally regarded as safe. The government's done away with that. So, just understand the conversation, understand the motivation of the people that are saying stuff like that. But it's something that keeps the world clean. There's different methods. Ozone, peroxide, RF, but there's different methods of decontamination across the world. But they're all they wouldn't be out there if they weren't safe.
Okay, thank you.
You guys?
Thank you. I think that's all the time we have. That was fantastic. Let's hear it once again for this wonderful panel.